Hey y'all! So welcome back to the third installment of the Grow with Faith mini-series. As always, it's my hope that this finds you well wherever you are listening in. As for you, girl, I'm feeling purposeful and inspired by my 19-year-old self, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Before I get into this week's episode, though, I have got to tell you guys a funny story. So yesterday, the temps weren't so hot in Chicago, so I decided to take the kiddos for a walk in the neighborhood. And within minutes, baby Zara was knocked out in her carrier. Her short little thick thighs was dangling. All the while, I was pulling Amara along in our favorite red wagon. So just for context, Amara and that red wagon are famous in our neighborhood. So we had to walk maybe a good 2 or 3 miles, and the entire time Amara singing at the top of her lungs, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Over and over again. So usually I would have been annoyed by like the repetitive nature that is all things toddlerism, right? So they love repetition, songs, toys, activities, and even clothing and shoes. But yesterday, it was different. It was as if she was singing to me, like she was affirming the need for me to let my light shine and not let anything or anyone dim it. So today's episode is actually going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to call it Don't Dim Your Light. So dimming your light means that you don't let your true self be seen, and instead of allowing your energy to expand, you hold it back. So maybe you dim your light so that you don't become too much for other people, or you dim your light because you feel like your dreams or your passions are too unrealistic to have. And sometimes we even allow someone or something to dim our light. Maybe it was the ex who broke your heart and told you that you never find anyone like him or her. Or maybe your boss made you feel inadequate and passed over. Outside societal expectations, not speaking up when you know that you should, or breaking up with a friend that made you then question if you were even worthy of friendship. What about lying about how things are going in your life so that others can feel better about themselves? Letting folks drain your energy, your excitement, and your joy because you haven't set firm boundaries. What about staying in relationships, romantic or not, that no longer serve you? Filling up your life with busyness without consideration for time to rest, to recharge, and to even reflect. And last but certainly not least, leaving old trauma unresolved. Either way, you get the picture. We allow all of these things, our past experiences, people, ourselves, dim our lights. And whether it means leaving dreams behind or playing it small at work, shrinking for the benefit of others, whatever the case might be, we've allowed our lights to be dimmed. Those dreams you once had, that life you always dreamed of, the insatiable craving for true love, the business that you've wanted to start, the healthy body and lifestyle you've always desired. You can have it, and you're worthy. So I think I talked to, it was 3 of some of my most badass friends this week, and there were these running themes throughout the conversations. Playing it small, feelings of unworthiness, and or concerns about letting their light shine too bright for the sake of other people. And here's a synopsis of how the calls went. So my first conversation, she said, "Faith, I don't know if I should ask for more money for grad school because what if I take away the funds from another Black woman who asked?" She's been the founding director of a site for a national nonprofit. She went from a senior director to a chief program officer at another national nonprofit in less than a year and a half and is only 33. Complete badass. Conversation number 2. She said, "I felt reminded of the badass I used to be after looking at these old notes and thank you cards from previous clients that I'd run across. I mean, they've gone on to accomplish some incredible things. It makes me want to be more vulnerable at work so that I can get what I want." This same person, she's been on the brink of burnout for 3+ years because she's given so much of herself and not focused on her own needs and desires and all of the things. She also has been talking herself out of starting a formal executive coaching business, but has been doing executive coaching for someone else for 20 plus years. And slays. I'm talking about this woman is incredible. Conversation number 3. He says, Faith, I don't know if I can take a leave of absence for work to focus on my health and to rebuild my business. He's been working 18 plus hour days, driving for hospitals for over 4 years, and is having issues with his kidneys, his foot, and much more. On the flip side of that, he's been a top sports broadcaster, a sought-after actor, and podcast producer. And when I say this guy is a beast in the game, he's a beast in the game. In each of those conversations, I immediately went into hype woman mode for my friends. I had to remind them of the badasses that they were, and that they were worthy of everything that they wanted and should not talk themselves out of getting what they need, want, and deserve. And just this morning, I found myself laughing out loud at a memory from my sophomore year of college. So I'd always been obsessed with wanting to become a talk show host. I'm talking about obsessed, right? So I wrote Oprah probably 10 letters, and she never wrote me back. Bless her anyways. So I decided to reach out to the Ricki Lake Show to be a guest on the show, and they called me back literally the next day. So 2 weeks later, my homegirl Liz and I were headed to New York City. So I had my resume ready. I'd already been in connection with the show's guest coordinator, so we've been networking, and we get there and we have an entire blast. And while I never got that internship or an offer to work for Ricki, I put myself out there to get one step closer to that dream. And the episode, Give Up the Gucci, You Spend Too Much Money on Designer Labels, is certainly one for the books and never to be forgotten. But what it reminded me of was that I have run away from so many of my dreams as I thought that they were unrealistic. I didn't go for a job. I didn't ask for a raise. I didn't believe that I was worthy of love or that I could live life on my own terms. I'd allowed my light to be dimmed. I don't know about you, but I want my light back. I want that old zeal for life that I had when I was that 19-year-old young woman. I was filled with dreams. I was letting no slide off of my back, and I was uninfluenced by the world that was around me. I want my power back. And not for the purposes of my ego, but because I really want to be the driver of my life and not in the passenger seat allowing life to happen to me. And more than ever before, what I also recognize and understand is the importance of reminding myself who I am and who I've always been, and that within me, I have unlimited potential, even when I don't feel like it. And when that doesn't work, I can always tap a friend, a loved one who can remind me of who I am, my accomplishments, how I'm such a badass, right? Because sometimes it's helpful to just look at yourself through the lens of somebody else. But more importantly, I'm really ready to get to work so that I can get rid of some of those limiting beliefs that I've been holding onto for too long, because they've been holding me back from my dreams, my optimal health and wellness, and so much more. I believe that when we tend to these things, that the light that is within us will have no choice but to shine outwardly. So what about you? What or who has been dimming your light? And what do you plan to do about it? Don't be afraid to shine, queen. The world, it needs your light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh. And with that, I'm out. Thank you so much for listening. It is truly my hope that you both enjoyed and gained something from it. And if so, be sure to share this episode with another queen that could benefit. Also, if you are willing and able, please leave me a 5-star review wherever you consume your podcast. That is how we spread the good word, y'all. And in the meantime, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at the Sista Circle Podcast. And be sure to check out the website, thesistacirclepodcast.com. There you can subscribe to our mailing list to ensure you get reminders about when new episodes drop. and receive our monthly newsletter that's filled with great resources. You can check out our show notes, resources, and blog. And you can send me a message if you want to be on the show, have an idea for the show, would like to collaborate, or sponsor the show. With love, Faith.